Hello and welcome back to the Jessica Pinelli podcast. How are we going? It is time to celebrate. I'm smiling so big. If you're not watching this on YouTube, which by the way, if you are, thank you so much for supporting the channel. I would love it if you hit the subscribe button whilst we are celebrating together. But you can probably hear if you're not watching on YouTube, I'm smiling big. We have just hit our 300th episode on the podcast. 300 episodes, 300 with 30 plus, 35 plus international guests, like 15 plus national guests. I'm from Australia, if you didn't know. And before I hit record, I was just sitting here and thinking about when I first had the idea drop into my head to start a podcast. It was like 2017, towards the second half of 2017. And back then, podcasts for people like me wasn't really a thing. It was people like, Mel Robbins and Oprah Winfrey and Tony Robbins. That's what I'm talking about. Those types of personalities. I know that right now podcasts are very, very popular. Everyone can start a podcast. I love it. It's great. Everyone loves to yap. But back then, it was terrifying because I had this idea. I wanted to utilize this platform. I didn't really know much about it because, again, it wasn't really a thing. And I remember ordering this microphone off Amazon. It was like 100 USD. It's a Blue Yeti microphone. Any of you who do any type of recording will know that microphone. It's still in my office. I still have it. It's my backup. It's great. And I remember ordering that, and I think it took me about 6 months. So either by the time it was December 2017 or January 2018, I hadn't recorded anything. Do you know why? Because I was so terrified of what people were going to say about me having a podcast. I was so, so scared. I had this big fear of judgment. Like, if I put out a podcast, what are my friends going to say? What are people on the internet going to say? Like, who do I think I am? Right. I had this deep feeling of just fear and rejection. Like, who does Jess, especially, it was more so my friends. Like, who does Jess think she is starting a podcast? Like, who does that? And like now, it's normalized. But I put it off for 6 months. And then when I eventually started, either December 2017 or January 2018, the first few episodes are recorded in my wardrobe in an old apartment I used to live in Perth. And I recorded because it was echoing so much with this microphone. I couldn't quite get it to work without me being in an isolated room. And so I had to quite literally, like Harry Potter style, record in the wardrobe. And I'm pretty sure on YouTube it's not, because I've only just started uploading in the past few months onto YouTube. But I'm pretty sure my first few episodes, you can still get them on Spotify. Maybe, I think. If they're not, I do need to check that. Like, they're still out there in the interweb somewhere. And I put it out there and I didn't tell anyone. And I kept uploading. And I think it wasn't until maybe episode 10, or it could even be episode 20, where I didn't tell anyone, or I wasn't like actively putting it on my Instagram stories or sharing it. But I think what happened at like episode 10 or 20, I can't quite remember, I got a message from someone. She was in Australia, not Perth. I think she was actually in Sydney. And she messaged me. She's like, "Hey, Jess, I've been following you for a while. I also just came across your podcast. I didn't know you had a podcast. I've binge listened to these episodes. I love it. Thank you so much for sending a podcast." And that message alone gave me confidence to start talking about it, because I mean, if you've been following the podcast for the longest time since then, or the past couple of years, I have this avenue to teach and to connect and to yap. It's my favorite. I call the podcast my baby. And it is something that I have just found such a deep, deep loving connection with. It truly, truly inspires me. And I know a lot of people start podcasts. I don't know the statistics. I think they don't make it past episode 5 or something like that. There's a statistic like that. I saw it the other day, very, very low. And so when I was like, oh my God, I'm coming up to my 300th episode, I was like, go me, go me. But I really believe it's because I'm truly inspired. And this goes without saying for anything in your life. And you need to be truly inspired by what you're doing to have a commitment to it. And in 2022, I lost that inspiration. I lost the mojo with my podcasts. I just didn't feel connected. I felt that it was something that I had to do. And anything that you feel in your life you have to do, you either eliminate or you delegate it, or you find a funnel where you are able to do it through a source of inspiration. And it was just like a grind, like having to show up weekly. And now I show up twice a week, but having to show up weekly was just a grind. It was just I was disconnected. And I took a break for a few months. I had people messaging me saying, "Is everything okay?" And I'm like, you know what? The podcast isn't over. It's not take a break. And I don't think this is disconnected from me for good, but it was take a break. Like I need to find the inspiration. And I'm glad I took a break. I'm glad that I took that risk to just stop uploading and to focus on other areas of my business. Like 2022 was like a weird year in business. There was just so much of my identity and who I was from starting my business in 2019 changed. And that was one of them. And I got really scared for a moment because I was like, I loved this. I love this. I love this form of connecting with people, of being able to talk. I love long form content as a business creator, a business owner, and a content creator. And I got really scared that I wasn't going to love it again. But I'm glad I took the time off and I came back a few months later. I came back stronger. And this year I've come back even stronger. I've nearly every single week uploaded twice a week. I have had so many incredible guests this entire year. I've got my last two interviews that I'm uploading. One should be this week. And then the next should be next week for the year. I mean, there may be others that come on for the year, but I did such a big batch of recording this entire year. And I just feel so much gratitude for this medium, for this microphone, to be able to talk and to connect, because it's something I don't overthink. It's something that I'm not worried about. I feel that people who resonate with the podcast will keep listening. And if you listen to one episode and you're like, she's not for me, great. You don't need to keep listening. And I feel it's such a place for me to express myself. And when I check the statistics, which I hardly ever do, but more so like what countries, what places are listening to the Jessica Pinelli podcast. And when I see the different places, I saw like one the other day, it was like Mexico, and then, it's people in France. And like, that's incredible to me. It's not just people in Australia, it's people all over the world. And so if you're listening, like Australia, shout out to you, of course, but wherever you are in the world, and honestly, if you're watching this on YouTube, like let me know in the comments, comment below where you're from. If you are listening to this, slide into my DMs. Like, tell me you're listening to this episode. Tell me how long you've been listening. Tell me where you're tuning in from, because I love to hear it. I've connected with so many of you because of this podcast, who have found me because of this podcast. And it really, what I wanted to bring into this episode today, the 300th episode, is I'm just thinking like how I just have so much gratitude in my heart right now. But it's really the power of being able to lean into the momentum, lean into when you find inspiration doing something. Remember, you're going to get it to a point where there's momentum, where you need to ask yourself, is this inspiring or not? Is this, it's like, if it feels a little bit like I'm scared of the outcome, or I don't know if it's going to work, can you lean right in, or is it really not for you? And I've seen this in both ways with the podcast. There have been weeks where I'm like, I'm tired, I'm frustrated. I tell myself I have nothing to talk about. I have so many things to talk about. But that's where most people tap out. That's where most people see so much momentum, and then all of a sudden they tap out because their nervous system, their subconscious mind doesn't want them to go beyond what they're familiar with. Or like I was in 2022, I just started to feel disconnected because the way that I was showing up, the things that I was speaking about, the even my art, my cover art, even my introduction song, it just didn't connect with me. It didn't connect with me whatsoever. And so I lost the inspiration for that. And so I know a lot of you may struggle with keeping the momentum. And when it gets really good, maybe you lean out, maybe you manifest a sickness, maybe you manifest an extra bill, like in your business. Like, let's give some examples, right? In your online business, maybe you're going so good, and then you're seeing momentum, and then all of a sudden you start to reflect on the past few weeks. It's like, okay, I feel like I'm showing up all of the time, but why aren't I getting more client inquiries, or why aren't I getting more sales for my course, or, sales have dropped? Why is that? Start to get really, really honest with yourself of the moment you start to have momentum and the ball is rolling, start to see where you stop. Start to see where it becomes really sticky. Start to see where your nervous system and your subconscious mind quite literally taps out and goes, no, I'm not doing it anymore. We're too scared of the success to come, or we're too scared of failing, or we're too scared of the judgment. So instead, let's manifest a sickness so we can't show up, or let's manifest, this happening in our week, or I made more this month than I ever have, but I don't believe I'm worthy of it. So let's manifest this extra random bill of the exact amount. Like I've quite literally done this. This was a few years ago. I had a very specific amount. I think this is my second year on business, and I had a very, very specific amount I wanted to manifest. And because of I internally, subconsciously didn't think I was worthy of that amount, I actually manifested that amount in debt. I got a random letter from the tax office and I was like, we miscalculated. You actually owe us this. And it was that exact amount that I was trying to manifest. And this is what can happen. And so then we lose momentum even more. And it's like, see, nothing's working. So this, and I was giving examples, but so in business, it could look like you actually not putting out your new offer, or actually not reaching out in your DMs or responding to comments about your offers, or about people having inquiries, or not showing up on your stories, or saying that you had a bad day so you can't possibly post on your stories. In relationships, this can look like, you go to set a boundary and then you stop, or you stretch your boundary back, you change what the boundary looks like to please other people, or you start to put other people's needs above your own, and you get really, really resentful, and you feel like you're making good headway, and then all of a sudden it's like when you arguing about the same thing in a relationship, and then you start to work it out and you get momentum with the relationship, and then it keeps repeating and that there's no change behavior. It's because you're willingly choosing, okay, we're doing the same thing. You're not actively changing the course of what you keep fighting about. With money, this can look like, not actually looking at your money, not actually doing the things you want with your money, being afraid to talk about money, feeling icky around money, and feel like you have momentum with savings. And then the moment where you have that savings amount, the body may feel like, oh, we can't hold on to this. This is bad. Or having money in your account is greedy, whatever the belief is. And so you go and impulsively spend. You seek out, okay, look, there's a sale on. Like, technically, I save $100, like girl math. And then you go into this shame spiral because you're like, well, I just hit that in my savings and now I spent it. Like, why did I do that? And this is where we lose momentum. And it's like every couple of weeks or every couple of months, you're losing the momentum at where you are. And I see this a lot with the women that come and work with me. And I'm seeing this with the women who are coming to work with me in my new container, which I don't think I've announced in the podcast yet, but Become the CEO is my brand new 12-week mastermind. We started in a couple of weeks. It's all around helping you as a female entrepreneur scale to 10K to 30K months whilst creating an impact, whilst creating a legacy. Because yes, creating that consistent, and that's the key, consistent money is insane, and it will change your lifestyle and it will change the way that you perceive yourself. But being able to create a business, like I've created a movement, I've created an impact, being able to create your own methodologies and being so rooted in being able to have something that is fully yours, fully functioning, not waking up stressed and not knowing what to do, or like, okay, what should I do? It's not working. Or, you try something for a day and it doesn't work. And then you overthink and you do something else and then you have no momentum. This is what Become the CEO is like my woman mastery methodology. It's the CEO version, right? We go through things such as your identity, your visibility, your influence, and the strategy. So everything around your subconscious identity as a business owner, as a woman, a female entrepreneur. And then we go deep dive, personalized feedback into sales, into your messaging of your offers, and into your content. And it's not going to be like, okay, like this is create this type of content 5 times a week. I have taken my time with this container. I've taken my time and I've really built it over the past 5 years in business and learn from my clients, from myself, what works, what doesn't, to create a sustainable business, but one that supports your lifestyle. And that can quite literally be your gym membership, your Pilates classes, your wellness treatments, or your trips, or things for your kids, or whatever it may be. And so, if you are a female entrepreneur and you want to get personalized feedback, because we don't do cookie cutter shit, in any of my containers, you want personalized feedback, eyes on your business, scale to consistent 10K to 30K months, and create an impact. Show notes below. Go and sign up now. We start in a couple of weeks, and this is going to change the way you view your business. And, I was really, when I started really fleshing out, that's what I'm looking for, fleshing out the methodologies of Become the CEO, which is just insane. If you go to my Instagram and the highlights, Become the CEO, you can see the methodology. A lot of it is rooted in being able to keep that momentum. And if I reflect on my journey of a business owner of this podcast and celebrating our 300th episode, a big part of it is being able to hold yourself in a state of momentum that is regulating, that is inspiring, and that is actually creating progress. Because so many people wonder why they have momentum, or they're staying the same in the same type of momentum for months and months and months, weeks and weeks and weeks. But are you just ticking off the bare minimum of what momentum is? And I gave this example to my clients on our call last night, mastermind. And I said, it's like if you were waking up every single day and you know that every single day you go do your steps, you do a workout, you have your morning smoothie, and you post a piece of content on your TikTok, right? Let's say you've been doing that for the past couple of months. What I see a lot of high achievers do is they will wake up, they will tick those off as the bare minimum. That's a bare minimum mindset. The things you've already adjusted to doing, you have regulated your capacity to doing these things. And then they start to get distracted because they feel their body, their nervous system. And we go, the woman mastery methodology is all around subconscious reprogramming, identity shifting, and regulating to a new capacity. This will be fed into Become the CEO Mastermind for business owners. And what I see, right, business, career woman, whoever you are, is then they've ticked off the bare minimum. And the moment it's like, oh, maybe, okay, I've ticked off, my content I do for TikTok, maybe I should show up on my stories. And if you haven't regulated, if you're not doing the work to keep the momentum and to hold the space to actually be different, to create different results, because right now you are where you are because you keep emulating the exact same actions and behaviors that create the exact same results. If you can't hold that, then you're going to be in the exact same spot. And this is what I see over and over again, is ticking off the bare minimum and then ending the day in a shame spiral, overthinking, or feeling not good enough, or getting really confused at why your progress isn't where you thought it would be. It's because all you're doing every day is getting the dopamine hits of ticking off the things you're already doing. So what I give to you today is a tangible thing. Go away, write down what are the bare minimum things that you do every single day. Like, it's a part of who you are, it's a part of your identity. Get really like another example I gave is, you're not going to be writing down brush teeth, if that's something you do every single day and ticking that off on your to-do list, can't talk, you're not going to be writing that down, right? Because it's like, well, duh, of course I do that. That you need to apply that mindset to the bare minimum things. And that is what I call the 2x mindset, right? To get to where you are envisioning, you need to 10x it. So write down all the bare minimum things in your business, your career, your relationships, your money, your health. Those are the things you already do. Cool. Put it to the side. That's already part of your day. Now, what's the 10x version? What are the things that are actually going to make progress? And this is something I'm going to go into very, very deep into Become the CEO, because I think it's important for female entrepreneurs to actually be able to see their own blind spots, and ask better questions about, why am I still in the same spot I was 90 days ago, or 6 months ago, or 2 weeks ago? You shouldn't be in the same spot in your business as you were 2 weeks ago. You shouldn't be in the same spot as you were in your career 2 weeks ago. Your relationship, no, things should always be moving and always be tracking and changing. And so all the info on Become the CEO is in the show notes below. There are other avenues to learn this. If you're not a female entrepreneur, you don't have a business, that are in the show notes below. I highly recommend as well getting the self-paced program, the Fem Club. So the Fem Club was my signature program for years, and I stopped at the beginning of last year, but now you can get it as a self-paced program. If you have self-sabotaging tendencies and you want to create a life with direction, like a clear sense of direction away from self-sabotaging, get that. If you're not a business owner, get that 110%. If you are a business owner, come into Become the CEO. But this episode, I really, I wanted to start by just celebrating this podcast episode. I want to share how much gratitude I have for you watching or listening to the Jessica Pinelli podcast. It truly, truly means so much to me that I have people globally tuning in. Like, that's just insane. Like, I see on there people in Fiji, people in Denmark, people in Toronto, people in Ohio. Hello to all of you that are listening to this. I just think it's absolutely insane. And the biggest theme of this entire episode for the 300th episode is the momentum. To keep the momentum of progress in your life, you need to lean right in, because that's where real transformation happens. That's when it gets really, really good. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. Here's to another 300 episodes. Oh my God. And thank you so much. I would absolutely love it if you could take a screenshot of this episode, share the love, share it on your stories, share it with someone, a bestie who needs to hear this. If you could leave a 5-star review, a written review, it takes 2 seconds. It means so much to the podcast because it pushes it out. If you're here on YouTube, leaving a comment, leaving a thumbs up, subscribing as well, it really is helping the channel. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.